Our region's business is sponsored by PNC for the achiever in you.
Now, there's nothing like experience to help navigate the ins and outs of running a business. If you don't have the experience, there's a book for that. A former CEO from right here in our region has written just that book. It's called You'll Manage, Lessons Learned from a Former CEO. And the former CEO is Allison. He's back with us today.
Thanks,
Welcome,
Bill.
good to see you again.
Good to be back.
Yeah, I haven't had you here since you were a CEO,
That's
I
right.
think. All right.
Or
just basically, just after.
Right.
Running Tollgrade, for people who don't recall.
Right, a CEO for almost 10 years.
Yeah, and a great success story, great running that business.
Yep. Yeah, we started out in the late 80s. We were profitable, and by 92, we were public in 95. Our market cap hit $2 billion in 2000. And we weathered the dot-com bubble in the 9/11, and bought a couple businesses after that, and then I retired in 2005. It had been almost 10 years, which is about 5 years longer than the average CEO tenure, which is about 5. So it was just time. I was ready to move on with the next phase.
Yeah, well, what's been the next phase? You've been at it now for 8 years, I guess,
well,
right?
It's been great. Tollgrade's kind of a distant memory. I'm a college professor now. I teach at Allegheny College. I teach entrepreneurship and finance. I do a lot of writing, and I'm pretty actively involved in that. I've invested in a couple of startup companies. Just made another 2 investments within the last year. One's in an online education company, and the other is a shale company. Okay. So I've been sitting on some boards, but most of the concentration is teaching and writing.
That's great. That's your alma mater too, right?
It is. Graduated in '83. Yeah. I'm on the board now, and we're in the middle of a big fundraising campaign, which is going really well. So it's a great school. Right?
Yeah, it is a great school. Great reputation. Yes. Really terrific. Well, tell me how the book came about.
Well, I'd been writing a column for Pittsburgh Quarterly magazine since I retired. And I'm actually working on a trilogy of books about the formation and life of Tollgrade that I'm actually working on right now. But I wanted to kind of dip my toe in the publishing water, if you will, and I created a collection of the articles that were published in Pittsburgh Quarterly as well as on the Post-Gazette, some editorials that I'd written, and then there's some new things in there. And I'm working with a guy that as an editor, who I'd worked with when I was at Allegheny, who's actually working there, named Ross Howell, who is a novelist and teaches at Elon, teaches creative writing, and we worked together on it over the last year, pretty concentrated over the summertime. And the publisher is actually Amazon, and so I wanted to go through that process and see what it was like, and it's been a great reconnection with an old friend as well as an editor. And then, of course, Doug Hoyk did a lot of editing on these original articles.
Publisher of Pittsburgh Quarterly.
But it's fun. I was kidding my wife that I think degrees in English literature are wasted on college students, because I think you need to be you need to hit 40 before you start reading these things. And I went back and I reread all the books that I'd read when I was an English major, and they take on a different perspective. And I think if you get 5 years distance from running a company, you look through that lens rather than the immediacy.
Well, what happened when you went back and you looked at all these columns you've written over the years? Has your worldview changed? Did you leave some out that no longer reflect?
No, I tell you what, I woke up in the middle of the night a couple times. I think I was telling you that one of the byproducts of not running a public company is you actually get 7-8 hours sleep. I mean, I used to average 5. And all the great world events that hit CNN at 3 o'clock in the morning, I saw most of them throughout that period. So you kind of relive those things. Plus, it also made me think a lot about my dad, and because my dad was the founder of the company, and very early on his health deteriorated, and he was a serial entrepreneur, and he had to pay attention to his other business. So I got kind of thrust into it, and I like to tell people that my liberal arts education helped me run the business, because the first thing I did was go to the library and I learned how to be a manager, because I worked at Ketchum Public Relations. I was a public relations person.
Right. The ability to learn to learn.
Learn to learn.
Yeah.
So I basically taught myself it. So reliving that and going through all the old corporate minutes and looking at the fundraising documents, et cetera, it's very interesting. Probably, I've always said I would like to get in a time machine and go back, because when I became CEO at Tollgrade, I was 34.
Wow.
And I would like to do that now with the mindset I have.
Well, and that's the question. A little less than a minute left, but I wonder, get that itch, go in, start from scratch
Well,
again,
you know,
do it all over
Well,
again?
it's funny. I tell a joke to my students at Allegheny that I came down for breakfast one day and I told my wife, I said, would you go downstairs and get a 3-wood out of my golf bag? And she said, well, what's that? And I said, well, just grab any one of them. It'll work. She said, why am I going to do that? I said, I want you to hit me in the head with it because I'm thinking about starting a company again. And she said, how would you do it? And I said, I'd go look for problems and see if we could come up with solutions and pick the one with the biggest market. So, you know, I get that itch every once in a while, but, you know, as I say, a guts of sensibility kind of blows through my ears, and then I decide not to do it.
Okay, so now you're an author, professor, etc. The book's called You'll Manage, Lessons Learned from a Former CEO. Lots of words of wisdom. Chris Allison.
Well, thanks a lot, Bill.
I assume Amazon.com?
Amazon.com. It's available in soft colors as well as Kindle.
Very cool. All right, thanks so much.
Great.
Good to
Thanks,
see you.
Bill.
Yeah. And we'll be back in a minute with little dollars and cents. Stay with us.